Marketing Edge on TV is Nigeria's leading initiative in the business of brand management and the management of brand business. It is a 30-minute awesome package that comprises brand news, branding focus, and industry conversation all in a mix, encompassing thorough and in-depth analysis aimed at promoting the brand idea. My name is Bababumi Agbibi. Welcome to the program.
Marketing Edge on TV, promoting the brand idea.
We begin with brand news, where we bring you the latest developments around brands and in the field of marketing and advertising in Nigeria and around the world. Coca-Cola has unveiled a refreshed global brand identity to deliver a more consistent and recognizable experience across packaging, retail outlets, digital platforms, and branded equipment. Rather than replacing its iconic look, the company has reinforced its signature red and white colors, dynamic ribbon, Arden Square, and Spencerian script logo to strengthen brand recognition. Furthermore, Coca-Cola's Zero Sugar will debut refreshed packaging with bolder branding. Nigeria's advertising industry has been urged to embrace change as artificial intelligence and shifting consumer behavior reshape the profession. Speaking at the 53rd Annual General Meeting of the Association of Advertising Agencies of Nigeria in Lagos, TBWA President Lanre Adisa said agencies must lead disruption instead of waiting to respond to it. Stakeholders agreed that the future belongs to agencies that combine technology, innovation, and human creativity to remain competitive. The Advertisers Association of Nigeria has elected Ortega Ogra as its new president, ushering in a new leadership era for the nation's advertising industry. Meanwhile, Ogra pledged to build on the achievements of his predecessor by strengthening collaboration, promoting innovation, and fostering constructive engagement across the marketing communications ecosystem. Furthermore, he urged stakeholders to embrace dialogue over conflict, insisting that unity remains the key to sustainable industry growth. Additionally, Advan elected a new executive council with Gloria Nwabuike emerging as first vice president, Maurice Ugugu as second vice president, Sheni Ugunkola as treasurer, Adeola Nwosu as publicity secretary, amongst several other executive members.
Advan, as Nigeria's premier body that advocates on behalf of brands, institutions, small businesses, and even those who are, yet to be registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission, seeks to create a situation whereby we can begin to measure our contributions to Nigeria's GDP, and the Nigerian economy. Beyond that, we know there have been some challenges in the past, and these challenges are not limited to, our issues with our regulator. But, if we've tried something for a couple of years and it's not worked, maybe it's high time we begin to look at other avenues of rapprochement with the regulator.
The Nigerian communications industry paused to celebrate the life and impact of late John Ajayi as he was posthumously honored with the Legacy Award at the GLG PR Power List 2026. The emotional moment held at the Mike Adenuga Center in Ikoyi, Lagos, saw his family receive the honor on behalf of the communications icon, drawing heartfelt applause from industry leaders and professionals. The award recognized Ajayi's remarkable contributions to public relations, strategic communications, and his lifelong commitment to mentoring talents, building institutions, and advancing Nigeria's integrated marketing communications industry. Through his work, John Ajayi created opportunities, inspired professionals, and left behind a legacy that continues to shape the communications landscape. The GLG PR Power List 2026 also celebrated outstanding professionals across categories, including rising voices, community impact, fourth estate and change makers, and individuals driving growth and transformation in the industry.
Marketing Edge on TV, promoting the brand idea.
That was brand news. Next is branding focus after this break.
Every day, millions of Nigerians walk past your next customer. The question is, can they see you? Nimbus Media puts your brand exactly where Nigeria is already looking. High impact digital screens inside shopping malls, supermarkets, gyms, and the busiest locations across Nigeria. From billboards to brand activations, we make sure you show up and show up boldly. We've helped brands launch, grow, and become the name people remember in the moments that matter the most. Your audience is already out there. It's time they found you. Nimbus Media. Visibility. Done right. Book your campaign today at nimbus.com.ng.
Marketing Edge on TV, promoting the bright idea.
Now brand in focus. Retail media networks are changing the advertising landscape, enabling brands to leverage retailers' first-party data for precise targeting. Experts highlight that integrating in-store promotions, e-commerce placements, and social media campaigns can significantly enhance visibility and engagement. With African e-commerce projected to reach $180 billion by 2025, brands have a growing opportunity to scale their businesses. By refining data-driven strategies, they can optimize ad spend, improve targeting, and maximize return on investment. Experts emphasize that contextual and relevant content is key to capturing consumer attention. Using data insights, brands can create ads that resonate better, increasing conversions and strengthening customer relationships. Retail media networks are now more than just an advertising tool. They serve as a catalyst for driving sales, influencing purchase decisions, and ensuring brand visibility across multiple touchpoints.
Marketing Edge on TV, promoting the bright idea.
Next is Industry Conversation, where we discuss with industry thought leaders who have distinguished themselves and have made tremendous impacts in their chosen field. Join us after this break.
Every day, millions of Nigerians walk past your next customer. The question is, can they see you? Nimbus Media puts your brand exactly where Nigeria is already looking. High-impact digital screens inside shopping malls, supermarkets, gyms, and the busiest locations across Nigeria. From billboards to brand activations, we make sure you show up and show up boldly. We've helped brands launch, grow, and become the name people remember in the moments that matter the most. Your audience is already out there. It's time they found you. Nimbus Media. Visibility. Done right. Book your campaign today at nimbus.com.ng.
Marketing Edge on TV, promoting the bright idea.
On Industry Conversation today, we'll be having the concluding part of our conversation with the former Chief Executive Officer, TBWA Concept Unit, and also the former President, TBWA, Kelechi Nwosu. Thanks for staying with us. The last time we spoke, you touched on advertising spend. Now, this is the second half of 2026, H2. Now, what's your outlook for advertising spend in the remaining months of this year, and also comparing it to H1?
Okay, I don't have the numbers for H1, but the projections suggest it'll be higher, and theoretically, because of politics. Theoretically. Now, if that spend will come to the organized advertising sector, I do not know. I cannot really answer that because politicians have a way of spending their money. Okay, they can go directly, they can hire people from anywhere in the world, they just do whatever they want. But in theory, because of politics, the spend is likely to be higher because we are actually in political season. Elections are next year. I think it's in February next year. So campaigns will be open from probably from September this year. So it will go. But typically, the spend for most companies go higher in the second half, in the last quarter, because of Christmas and New Year. Seasonal promotions, meetings, seasonal, all sorts of things, make that go up at the last quarter of the year.
Okay, so looking at the spending as a whole, many companies, they seem to be cutting marketing budgets. What are companies risking when they set advertising as a cost and not an investment?
Well, they risk losing market share. They risk losing relevance. They risk their franchise becoming diminished. They risk top of the mind awareness, because if you're not on the in the minds of the consumer, and somebody else takes that position, when you come back, it's a tougher job for you to come back. Which is why the famous story about Coca-Cola advertising during Second World War, even when they didn't have the products, is very apt. They continued to advertise in the UK, from what we learned somewhere. So there's a risk for many brands if they don't advertise, if they cut back on their marketing spend. However, what tends to happen is that they necessarily do not cut back entirely. They will reallocate. They probably go to do, offline activities, do some digital, find a way to engage. Those who are smart about it find a way to engage and hope for the best. But in reality, some of them are also struggling with the real budgets because of the way things have gone this year.
We have pressure on agencies now to prove investment, return on investment.
Yeah.
Should sales alone determine the success of investment, or how should it be determined?
No, it shouldn't. It's a dashboard of things. Sales is one of them, but you need to look at, like I said, top of the mind awareness, purchase intent, and consideration. How are people looking at the brand? What are the objectives you set at the beginning of the campaign? So it's got to be a dashboard. Net promoter scores is another thing that people use. Net promoter scores is the difference between those who promote your brand and those who do not promote your brand compared to the other person. So it's a dashboard, it's a cache of values of an index is what you use, not just sales alone. But sales is important.
You've worked with many brands over the years.
Yes, I have.
So I want to pick from you. What makes a good agency client relationship?
Mutual respect, values, the fact that you allow the agency to express itself, and the fact that the agency must also listen actively, the fact that you do not have a client, okay, master servant relationship. Sometimes some clients come from a position of condescension to the agency. The agency client relationship that works well is where people treat each other fairly with mutual respect. That's when they're able to develop really great work. It doesn't mean that they will not disagree. Conflict and consensus, like we learned in my Sociology 101 class many years ago, donkey years ago, over 40 years ago actually, was that conflict is important, but consensus is also important. That's what makes a good client and agency relationship. I mean, I'll give you an example. When we started working on MTN, when I started working on MTN in 2001, I met a man called Olu Akomu, who was a senior brand manager. I think it was as a senior brand manager at that time at MTN. And we went on to do really great things. We're still friends up to today. In fact, we're collaborating on one or two projects. And he used to say, up to today, he calls me Bebeto because he's Romario. You remember the famous Romario Bebeto midfield combination? They will finish their football sentences with him. So we were in the midfield in that sense. He was on the client side, I was on the agency side, coordinating with media, PR, events, and he was coordinating with virtually all the units of MTN at that time. It was a beautiful relationship, and that mutual respect, the disagreements and agreements, the fact that we were all coming from two different places, but with one vision, and that we were able to communicate, allowed for us to be able to help build that brand at that time to what it was from 2001, 2005 or 6 when we started working on it. So that sort of relationship is golden.
Pitching remains one of the most debated issues in the industry.
I hate it.
Does the current pitching process still serve agencies and
No.
clients fairly?
No, it doesn't.
So what new model do you think should be applied?
I think my successor will have a view on this. In the past few years, as an agency, we've refrained from many pitches. I wouldn't say all. We've stopped ourselves from many pitches. It's not, sometimes a waste of time. The truth is, if you want to hire an agency, see the work we've done, see the people, see the process, look at their pedigree, and then you go and ask us questions. So typically, these days when you ask for a page, even if it's just credentials, we'll come there with a point of view, and we will tell you what we've done, how we want to approach it. That's how it should be done. I don't think we should go. We used to go do the bells and whistles, do the demos, come to clients, and they begin to tell you. As a client, for instance, we work for, and I will not name names now, but maybe I should. But that client asked for a pitch, and we went to the marketplace, did a whole strategic approach, market needs, consumer behavior, etc., and did creative. After the work was done, the client came back to us and said, "We like one or two of the TVCs you've developed. Can you please tweak it a bit and then come back to us, because we are judging your TV commercials against the TV commercials of the other people." We now said, A, that was not stated at the beginning of the page. B, if you're going to do that, you've got to pay us more money to do that. And secondly, if you told us that you were doing a TVC pitch, we would have just given you 20 TVCs so that you can pick the ones you want and test them. You didn't tell us that. You gave a brief. They come from strategy, and the client said we were, like Joan's like to say arrogant. So, oh, you're arrogant, because they think they own you, and they own your school fees and everything else of the agency. And we basically told them that, told them to go hog any transformer they liked, and that we ended that relationship. And that client had the temerity to say to us that she would blacklist us. We now said to her, we don't think that's anything like that. What do you mean by blacklist? You don't own the agency. We mustn't work for you. There are other people, fishes in the ocean. You are nobody really. You're not in a position to blacklist us. You don't blacklist an intellectual property owner. The best you can do is to say, for the time you're there, and by the way, this person is CMO, for the time I'm here, don't hire them. And it's up to you. You're losing. You don't see value with us. We really don't see value in you. Go your way, we go our way. It's not. So I think we need to be careful about pitches. I've done very many silly pitches in my life, as you can imagine. 36 years of advertising, very many unwarranted pitches. I'm particularly against pitches. If you want to ask questions about the agency, pick them up, find out where they're coming from and what you've done. The way I look at it is that, and I have a particular mentor called Le Ernst who says, stars don't audition. If an agency is well positioned, done some good work or great work, and you see them, why do you want them to go through the humiliation of coming to stand up and say, pick me? And we often do that as agencies. I think it is pretty poor. This is why value and values need to come to the table. Because if you value me enough, we need to have a conversation. Do you ask lawyers to pitch? When you go to a lawyer, you say, "Oh, I'm looking at. Tell me exactly what you'll be saying in court, how you handle the case, and please let me know how much it will cost." Is that how it works? You ask doctors to pitch. When you go to a doctor, you say, "Doctor, please, I want to know how. I want to give me the prescription. If I don't like it, then why do we cheapen ourselves?" So I don't like pitches, as you can tell.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about TBWA.
Sure.
Having served as the president of TBWA, now do you think the association's role in addressing issues in the industry is actually commendable or applaudable?
It is. The session is done its best. I hear people, some of our colleagues who are a little bit far off, they talk outside the circle. People act like AAA is something, is our thing. If anyone who wants changes, come in, make your suggestion, lobby for it. That's what it is. I think it's done commendably well across different areas.
So earlier we talked about, when we were talking about spend, even before spend.
Doesn't mean there's no room for improvement.
Okay.
Absolutely, but yeah, go ahead.
Before we spoke about spending, we also talked about the advertising industry earlier.
Yeah.
And you said that if they will pay, and if they pay, and if they don't pay, that's that phrase. But debts and delayed payments have been a thing in the industry. Now, how serious is the challenge today, and what lasting solution do you think we can have to that?
There are a couple of solutions. One is that the agencies must just brace up and follow the terms of their contract. Sometimes we are worst enemies We sometimes we behave, we're afraid. I want to say we're cowards, but I would say because sometimes, and there's a reason to be, because look at the conversation I told you we had with that particular client. Some agencies may not have that conversation because they're afraid of being blacklisted. You're afraid of being put in a corner and told to kneel down like a little boy. You're afraid that they won't pay you. And our legal system is also not helpful. If we have a disagreement on money, sometimes it takes years before it's resolved. But we must be able to stand up and say, no, you won't treat me that way. I'm a business person like you. You need to pay me the money you owe me. Industry wise, we have some industry. I was in the advertising industry standards committee, standards of practice committee. I represented AAAN. And that committee was a committee that said no one should owe anybody for more than 45 days. Advan has been quarreling with the current Advan president has been quarreling with that. You guys could ask him why. He says he wants to maintain terms that are individual. It depends. So if I agree that you pay me in 120 days, that's my term. He doesn't want an industry standard. What that particular ISOP did was to standardize it so that agencies are not owed for 45 days, and agencies also do not owe suppliers or vendors or media houses for 45 days. That is an ultimate big issue. In fact, it's a disgrace. Let's be honest about it. Because if you look at cost of money and you're owing someone for over 45 days, 90 days, it doesn't make economic sense. That comes back to the economics I'm talking about. So we must be able to move the needle forward concerning payments and debt across the chain. Like I said, from client to agency, agency to the media houses. And that's what ISOP did. That was the contribution, part of the work we have done as AAA. So people must take recourse in those available. I'm also working in a committee right now that looks at industry debt. People must take recourse in that. Like Etisalat, when they had a lot of money, they were owing people, agencies. Those guys reported them to us, and they are now settling it. So people must take recourse to that particular provision of practice to say, you owe me money, you pay, but you've got to be able to document your money. That's another thing. You've got to be able to be clear about your money, document it properly, be sure that you have your papers, because sometimes when people are probed, it can fall. If you fall through the cracks, it means you're not serious about your money.
Looking at the 2027 elections, now, with over 30 years in the industry,
Yes.
what opportunities do you see for agencies and also responsibilities do you see for agencies for the 2027 election?
Typically, we should be at the forefront suggesting strategic ideas, communication ideas, and executing them. That's the opportunity. But like I say, it doesn't often work that way. You know, because the ways of politicians are not pure. That's the truth. They work in very, very myriad ways that some of us find difficult to understand. They don't often do, even sometimes they do pitches with people from outside the country, but it's not all of them. I've been fortunate to work for a couple of them. Let's not generalize. But we need better standing with the political class. We need them to say, I want to work with this advertising agency or marketing communication group to further my cause. Maybe it's because they don't believe that their campaign messaging ultimately helps in that voting, and maybe.
Finally, after building decades of building brands, mentoring talents, shaping the industry, what legacy do you hope to leave behind?
You asked that legacy question before I sort of step. I think that legacies should be left for people who watch what one does and to say, okay, you did this. Because sometimes I don't even remember the things I've done, honestly speaking. My natural motivations are just to keep going, but to keep going in sort of a good direction. My ambition has always been to say, when I die, my tombstone, here lieth a man and he built great campaigns, X, Y, Z. So I think you guys.
So that's a legacy.
Yeah, that's a legacy, but it's for you. I don't want to say, oh, I've done this, done that. So my legacy, I don't know. You guys will tell me when you do further investigation.
But any advice for the next generation of advertising professionals?
Tons of advice. I think there's a lot that I'd say our business is life. We need to learn from life. We need to observe life. We need to read. We need to ask questions. We need to be curious. We need to be creative. Second thing is we must believe in ourselves. Sometimes I think we lack self-belief. We think of ourselves as I say in pidgin, less. Some way. Sometimes we say, if this was not done, if we're always looking for why. But if you look at awards now internationally, at the last count, a lot of countries in Africa, a lot of countries from developing world, they're winning. We need to believe that we have it. That's the truth. We need to believe in ourselves. But you must work as you believe in yourself, and we need to value what we bring to the table enough so that we get paid well enough, right? And we do show that we ought to be paid well enough. That is the economics part of it. You show value and you earn value and you ask for your value. That's it. And we must begin to keep reviewing our economic model. Our economic model is a little bit dated. So I'm happy always to support, mentor, to speak anywhere, anytime. That's probably more of what I'll be doing, and in a few other things as I have stepped aside.
We wish you the very best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having this conversation with us. It's been very interesting. Lots of education, lots of things to learn. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
I've been speaking with the former Chief Executive Officer, TBWA Concept Unit, and also the former President, TBWA, Kelechi Nwosu. The conversation continues on our social media platforms at Marketing Edge and also our website at www.marketingedge.com.ng. My name is Bababun Aguri.